Jakes used to come to my parties. TD Jakes also gave me young boys from church for sacrifice.
If Bishop Jakes was at a Diddy party, there could only be two reasons: money or
And then we said, but did you pay her fairly? And then he said, I paid her more than she's ever made. Remember when I said earlier, I've never seen so many cowards and black men in this business? I would have to put my brother Tyler Perry in that.
Hey, Bishop Jakes, how are you?
What's up, man?
Man, it's so good to see you.
It's better to see you. How you doing?
It's just real strange that he would be found at any kind of Diddy party or any kind of place with Diddy unless it's in a business atmosphere. So now what he's doing is he's making, man, he making the Christians look real bad right about now.
Heard being like, yeah, daddy, like when he started all that daddy this and daddy that, and then I heard some hollering and struggling like, yeah, I kept the phone.
Like you a man of God, TD Jakes. Have you ever been swallowed? I'm like, yes, I've been swallowed, have you? And who swallowed you, Medea?
I would have been swallowed up. Have you ever been swallowed up? Have you gone through a time of swallowing where everything was overwhelming and you...
Why would a religious man like himself be at a party which ain't nothing but sin that's going on, bruh? Whether it's drinking, maybe fornicating, maybe...
There's also an alleged email out saying a plethora of other things that include TD Jakes with Diddy.
Hollywood sells us dreams, red carpets, flashing lights, billion-dollar studios, and the neat little myth that talent plus hustle is all you need. But under that glossy ad is a darker script. People say the industry chewed them up and they're finally shouting back. Monique's explosive claims that powerful men tried to silence and underpay her lit the fuse, but this isn't just one story, it's a trend. Cat Williams has been dropping breadcrumbs for years, publicly suggesting the real power brokers aren't who they seem, and even name-checking figures like Tyler Perry and TD Jakes. Gene Deal has been peeling back the curtain on the music business, alleging what went on behind cameras and contracts, and Jaguar Wright has risked everything to reveal secrets the public was never meant to know. Put it all together, and what you get isn't just gossip. It's a growing chorus of allegations that's forcing a whole industry to face itself.
Why would we need a 50-foot bed?
I mean, TD Jakes ain't small. I'm just saying. If it's a group thing, it's a group thing. You gotta think about, you got Rick Ross, you got Khaled, we talk about heavy hitters. I mean, if Bishop Jakes was at a Diddy party, there could only be two reasons.
Hey, Bishop Jakes, how
What's
are you?
up, man?
Man, it's so good to see you.
It's better to see you. How you doing?
Every one of these voices has been smeared, blackballed, and threatened, and yet their stories line up too neatly to be dismissed. The same names keep surfacing, the same playbook keeps getting exposed. Different lanes, identical patterns. Put their testimonies side by side and it stops looking like gossip or grudges. It looks like control, a system that rewards silence and punishes truth. Tyler Perry and TD Jakes built empires on polished images, selling hope and hustle to millions. But what happens when those empires are hit from all directions at once? How long can you keep smiling for the cameras when the receipts keep piling up? That's why people like Jaguar Wright and Monique shook the table so hard. They didn't just whisper. They pulled the rug back, and now the foundation is cracking.
And I'm gonna lay my hands on you, Bishop. And he said, and then it's on the that. He's doing all of this, right? And then there's a woman on the dais.
Well, he says, I'm the first person to pay Taraji P. Henson the most money she's ever made. And then we said, but did you pay her fairly? And then he said, I paid her more than she's ever made. What does that mean, brother? Remember when I said earlier, I've never seen so many cowards and black men in this business? I would have to put my brother Tyler Perry in that. See, when I see you do a clip and you go to TD Jakes' church, and I watch you write a check for $1 million in front of the congregation, and you give it to this man, was that for the congregation to give more money? or was that really genuine? See, when no one's watching, who are you? To when everyone's watching. And we got a chance to see when no one was watching.
Period. All of these big deviants is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is.
He would be found at any kind of Diddy party or any kind of place with Diddy unless it's in a business atmosphere. So I'm looking at him as a saint going to a party that ain't nothing but sin. Drinking, maybe fornication, man on man, woman on woman, he on she. But maybe he'd have to lay some hands on somebody.
She's not whispering. She's not hiding. She's coming forward with receipts, with proof, and with a fearlessness that makes men like Perry and Jakes very uncomfortable. For years, they could brush off criticism and stand tall behind their polished images. But every time Monique speaks, that shine cracks a little more. TD Jakes isn't just a preacher. He's been branded as the face of modern Black spirituality. His sermons go viral, his books hit bestseller lists, his productions reach film and TV, and his church broadcasts nationwide, even on outlets like Revolt. He's shaken hands with presidents, dined with royalty, and stood shoulder to shoulder with celebrities. His name carried weight inside the church and far beyond it. That's exactly why his sudden, quiet resignation rattled everyone. A man with that level of power doesn't just walk away without reason. And sure enough, voices like Cat Williams, Monique, and Jaguar Wright aren't buying the neat PR spin about health or new ventures. According to them, this wasn't retirement. It was a push-out before things could get ugly. And that ugly leads right back to the man dominating every headline, Sean Diddy Combs. Let's rewind. Diddy's legal troubles have exploded. Lawsuits from women, former employees, and insiders have cracked open years of whispered rumors. The real bombshell dropped when producer Rodney Lil Rod Jones filed a massive federal lawsuit accusing Diddy of violent and abusive behavior. But what really lit up the industry was the other names that surfaced. Jakes wasn't a defendant, but his name was there. Jones claimed that when Cassie Ventura filed her explosive case, Diddy went into damage control and allegedly leaned on Jakes for credibility and spiritual cover, hoping his influence could soften the backlash. And that one connection was enough to set the internet on fire, because the second your name ain't. He shows up in a federal case, even indirectly. You're in the splash zone. From there, the internet did what it always does. It dug up old clips, old interviews, and suddenly the polished image started to look a lot less bulletproof.
I would have been swallowed up. Have you ever been swallowed up? Have you gone through a time of swallowing where everything was overwhelming?
When TD Jakes began to talk about sucking on a pulpit, that blew my mind.
But there will be a time. So you can stop dragging people and arguing with people and fighting and just log off. All you do is just hit the button. Right there. Log off.
One clip that made the internet explode was footage of Bishop Jakes at Diddy's 53rd birthday bash in Los Angeles. And this wasn't just a polite pop-in for a handshake. He was fully there, mingling, smiling, soaking up the atmosphere alongside a guest list stacked with A-list celebrities draped in designer luxury. It painted a very different picture than the image of the untouchable man of God. And for critics already connecting dots, that video was all the confirmation they needed.
So no, I was not blackballed. I was whiteballed. By some black who had no balls. Thank you, Mr. Lee Daniels. Thank you, Mr. Tyler Perry. Thank you, Miss Oprah Winfrey. You are not paying me equally. You are not treating me fairly. So y'all can suck my if I had one.
Why would you find a religious man, you know, when you know that the saints supposed to separate themselves from the sinners, and why would a religious man like himself be at a party which ain't nothing but sin that's going on, bruh? Whether it's drinking, maybe fornicating, maybe, like I said, men on men, women on women. it's hard to put in perspective unless he's involving himself what is actually going on at the parties. It's hard, brother. Bruh, you know, you can't, I really don't know why, as a spiritual advisor to him, that they buddy while he got a party with him like that and be at his parties. It's got to be, maybe it's something more that meets the eye.
Now sure, celebrities drop by parties all the time, but Diddy's parties are not just any parties. They've carried a reputation for years, wild, excessive, and everything church sermons warn against. So when a bishop of Jakes' stature is caught on camera looking perfectly at home in that environment, the questions write themselves. His camp moved fast to spin the narrative. Derek Williams, EVP of TD Jakes Enterprises, insisted the bishop was only in LA for meetings and briefly stopped by to wish Diddy a happy birthday, just a quick respectful hello. But let's be real, if you're trying to steer clear of controversy, why walk into one of the most infamous Hollywood events of the year at all? And then, almost like clockwork, Jakes suddenly announces his resignation. No scandal, no blow-up, just a clean, quiet exit. But the timing? Impossible to ignore. It came right as Diddy's trial looms, right as Jakes' name pops up in legal filings, right as old clips and photos resurface online. Selling this as coincidence feels like a stretch. And now, former bad boy bodyguard Gene Deal, never one to hold back, has been putting Jakes directly under the microscope. He's calling out the glaring contradiction between Jakes' image as a spiritual leader and the powerful, questionable company he allegedly keeps.
You know, I've talked to preachers and I've talked to reverends and priests, but they ain't never came to a party with me or nothing like that. So it's hard to figure that one out, bruh, without even saying, you know, what people might be thinking. But I heard that there's supposed to be some tapes or something that's coming out real soon. And I guess we'll all really know the truth if anything's on those tapes.
So when you ask me how does it feel to not hear him come out, I've seen The Wiz. And that's why I am so passionate about it. And I'm grateful that I do have my husband because I can get extremely passionate about it. And I don't want to ever seem like I'm talking harshly about my brothers and sisters, but it takes me to a different place when I feel like you're scamming us.
In Gene Deal's own words, the saints are supposed to be separated from the sinners. Yet here's Bishop Jakes, popping up at the same infamous parties tied to Diddy, events Gene himself has described as soaked in liquor, excess, and straight-up debauchery. And that's where the contradiction cuts deep. For a man who claims to be a shepherd of souls, Gene asks, what business does Jakes have being in those environments, unless he's either participating in or enabling what really happens behind those closed doors? It's the kind of question that doesn't just challenge Jakes' image, it shakes the foundation of everything he's built his brand on. Gene has been to those infamous Hamptons white parties himself, and he's broken down exactly how they go down. In the early days, everything was hidden away in private rooms. What really happened stayed behind closed doors. But as the years passed, discretion vanished. Men with men, women with women, people indulging out in the open with no shame, no secrecy. And for Gene, the fact that a pastor with Jakes' influence would even step foot in that kind of scene is a massive red flag. His take is simple. If you're truly a man of God, you shouldn't just avoid those spaces. You should be calling them out. But then there's Jakes' own household drama. One of his sons was allegedly arrested in a Dallas park tied to illicit activity, and both of his adopted sons have openly identified as part of the LGBTQ community. Gene makes it clear he's not judging anyone's personal lifestyle choices. What he questions is how a pastor whose own family is tangled in controversy can stand as a moral compass for millions. As Gene puts it, if you can't keep your own house in order, how can you possibly guide anyone else's?
You know, you got to look at a person's household, and if your household is not in order, you understand, how you going to help somebody else get their house in order? You know, one of his sons got arrested some years ago in Dallas, allegedly for being found in the park were a bunch of people that are homeless hang out and indulge in activity. And I heard his two sons, which are not his biological sons, both of them are from that LGBT community. Now, how you gonna help me straighten out my house? And to me, your house ain't in order. Not saying that something is wrong with them being and choosing that lifestyle, but something is wrong with them choosing that lifestyle, being in a household with a reverend.
I'm also told that multiple male escorts corroborated the fact that TD Jakes have slept with multiple men at Diddy's parties and abroad, and they refer to him as being a power bottle.
Shook my head to say, unfortunately, I don't put nothing past nobody no more.
There you go.
I just can't get shocked no more.
Yep.
I've been so disappointed in the people that I've looked up.
On top of everything else, Gene has been hinting that tapes might drop soon. Footage that could expose exactly what's been happening behind the scenes with Bishop Jakes and the circles he's been moving in. To him, it's simple. The bishop's holy image is crumbling under the weight of private actions that scream compromise, hypocrisy, and cover-up. And Gene isn't the only one pulling back the curtain. Cat Williams has been calling out Jakes for years, long before these new allegations hit the spotlight. Cat has never bought into the squeaky clean image Jakes sells. In his eyes, there's a clear pattern in Hollywood and the entertainment industry. Pastors and so-called spiritual leaders aligning themselves with powerful moguls, not to save souls, but to protect influence, money, and access. And in Cat's view, Jakes fits that mold perfectly. From his ties to industry titans, to his appearances at questionable events, to his silence on exploitation that's allegedly rampant in the business, Cat argues no real man of God would blur those lines. Instead of condemning it, Jakes is cozying up to it. And that, Cat says, speaks louder than any sermon. What makes Cat's words cut deeper is how much they echo Gene Deal's testimony. Two men from very different worlds are essentially asking the same question. How can someone who presents himself as a moral compass be so comfortable in spaces dripping with scandal and sin? And why is it that a comedian like Cat, branded crazy or paranoid by mainstream media, now sounds more honest than one of the most powerful preachers in America? That's why the conversation has shifted. This isn't just about a pastor quietly stepping down. It's about what he might be running from. Monique is already teasing bigger revelations, Diddy is drowning in lawsuits, and Jakes' exit feels just a little too perfectly timed. Monique claims Jakes didn't retire. He ducked out before the bomb went off. And that bomb? The kind Diddy has allegedly been sitting on for years. She insists Diddy didn't throw parties just for fun. He collected everything, screenshots, recordings, clips of what really went down at those infamous nights, not keepsakes, leverage. And with lawsuits piling up and his empire cracking, the fear now is that some of those files could surface. If Jakes shows up in those archives, that's not just embarrassing, that's reputation ending. Think about it. Jakes has spent decades curating his image as the father figure of modern Black spirituality. Viral sermons, best-selling books, packed conferences, Hollywood connections. His brand stretches far beyond the church. The last thing he wants is to be tied to lawsuits, wild parties, and federal investigations. And that's where Gene's testimony hits hardest. He's not just some outsider speculating. He was Diddy's bodyguard. He was there. He worked the doors. He saw who came in, who stayed, and what they were really doing. And he's saying flat out, Jakes wasn't just showing up for photo ops. He was participating, and that changes everything. A handshake is one thing, but if Gene is right, Jakes wasn't just nearby the chaos. He was part of it. And that's the kind of revelation that could burn down an entire empire.
And you've been to these parties, right?
Oh yeah, I was there when he was doing the white parties in the Hamptons and the whole 9 yards. So I know what goes on at the parties. If, they probably got a little bit more freakier, as time went on, because they got to the point whereas that they didn't even care. It used to be secretly, where people used to go to, separate rooms and different rooms, and they wasn't doing that out in the public, but now They don't care. Men kissing men and all this other shit. That's just crazy.
So why do you think he was going to these parties?
I think that he's going to the Diddy parties, you know. Bruh. If he's going, well, we know he's going to the Diddy parties, and I know that it's, I know what usually happens at the Diddy party, or what we told us happened at the Diddy parties.
In a 79-page lawsuit filed by a music producer who claims to have worked with and lived with Sean Combs for a period of time alleges there were underage girls, hidden cameras, and sexual harassment at his home.
The timing of it all has the internet in overdrive. Jakes quietly resigns, and within days, Diddy gets slapped with even more lawsuits. Suddenly, old party clips of the bishop resurface online, Monique starts dropping cryptic hints, and then Jakes himself makes a statement that only fueled the fire. Instead of shutting the rumors down with a hard denial, he leaned in to talk about grace and forgiveness, saying that even if it were true, the blood of Christ would cover it. But then he added that he had nothing to repent for. That strange halfway response left people scratching their heads. Because if nothing happened, why bring up forgiveness at all? To many, it sounded like a man bracing for impact, hoping the storm would pass without swallowing him whole. And let's be clear, TD Jakes isn't just a preacher, he's a brand. A multi-million-dollar corporation stamped across best-selling books, film projects, merchandise, massive conferences, and global ministries. His name means money, influence, credibility. But one undeniable crack in that image, one piece of evidence he can't pray away, could make the whole empire shake. Everyone in his circle knows it, his team knows it, and Jakes knows it. That's why his exit had to look polished, controlled, and drama-free. No messy back and forth with the press, no mention of Diddy, just a smooth, quiet step away before the spotlight burned too hot. But here's the problem. The fire isn't across the street anymore. It's creeping right up to his doorstep. The internet has basically turned into a digital crime scene unit. People are scrubbing old interviews, dissecting Instagram posts, pulling up guest lists, and replaying old clips frame by frame like detectives. And the closer we get to Diddy's day in court, the louder this storm grows. Because now it's not just about Diddy, it's about everyone in his orbit. Anyone who showed up, nay, who stayed silent. Anyone who might appear in those rumored files. If one name falls, the domino effect begins. And that's why Jakes' retirement isn't reading like rest, it looks like an escape. A man slipping out the back door before the flood hits his house. What was announced as a simple church transition has spiraled into a scandal-sized headline. Pews are buzzing, timelines are spinning, and even longtime supporters are side-eyeing the timing. Because stepping down right as Diddy's world collapses? That's not coincidence. That's a script straight out of a movie. Jakes spent years polishing his reputation as the father figure of modern black spirituality, a leader whose influence stretched from pulpits to Hollywood studios. But now, even the slightest association with Diddy's chaos threatens to undo it all. And with Gene Deal speaking out, the shadows get even darker. Gene wasn't some outsider speculating. He was Diddy's bodyguard. He stood at the doors, watching who walked in and what went down once the cameras stopped rolling. And he's not just saying Jakes was present, he's saying Jakes was involved. And that's the game changer. Because showing up is one thing, participating, that flips the entire conversation on its head.
Her birthday is tomorrow! His wife's birthday is tomorrow! Happy
She has turned over videotapes, a USB drive, and Kim Porter's burner phone. Now, there is also an alleged email out.
Jakes' response didn't calm the storm, it made it roar louder. When pressed for clarity, he didn't issue a hard denial. Instead, he slipped into sermon mode, leaning on themes of grace and forgiveness. The blood of Christ covers all, he said, before adding that he had nothing to repent for. To many, that sounded like a contradiction. If nothing happened, why even bring up forgiveness? Why sound like a man preparing for judgment? That strange half-confession rattled people more than silence ever could. And it's why the public is restless now. The contradiction is too loud. Clips of Jake smiling and mingling at Diddy's birthday party are circulating right alongside his fiery sermons about sin and redemption. Fans are watching the two versions of him side by side and asking, which one is real? Was he truly the preacher of discipline and faith? Or was that image just branding carefully layered over another lifestyle? Even media outlets that reached out for answers got nothing but scripted, polished replies from his team. They insisted it was just business, a brief visit. But the excuses rang hollow. Because why that party? Why that man? Why step into one of the most notorious rooms in Hollywood if your entire ministry preaches against that exact chaos? That isn't an accident. That's a choice. And the internet isn't buying innocence from someone as media-savvy and calculated as TD Jakes. And here's the kicker. He's not standing alone in this fire. Tyler Perry, too, has long been celebrated as the mogul who built his own empire after Hollywood refused to open its doors. His billion-dollar studios, his larger-than-life brand, his public image as the champion of Black storytelling, it all looks like a dream. But behind the gloss, a different story has been quietly spreading. Former collaborators, actors, and writers have whispered about a pattern of control and mistreatment that rarely makes headlines. The writers' controversy was the clearest example. When the creative team behind one of Perry's biggest shows pushed for union contracts and fair pay, instead of meeting them halfway, Perry reportedly showed them the door. These were the same people who helped churn out hundreds of episodes, the same ones who poured fuel into the empire that made him millions. But when credit and money got brought to the table, they were discarded. Some of those writers later spoke out, saying they felt betrayed, describing the move as a slap in the face. And it doesn't end there. Cast members from his productions have hinted at toxic working conditions, grueling hours, little space for collaboration, and a culture where speaking up means punishment. On the outside, Perry presents himself as the ultimate hero of Black storytelling. But behind the curtain, the shine looks a lot darker. That's why Monique's decision to call him out landed like gasoline on a fire that was already burning. What once looked like scattered complaints has grown into a pattern, evidence that suggests the same man who's praised for opening doors may also be the one slamming them shut on anyone who dares to challenge him. Tyler Perry's war with unions didn't stop at his writer's room. It spread into his stage work too, and by 2015 it reached a breaking point. That year, two powerhouse labor groups, SAG-AFTRA and Actors Equity Association, took the rare step of outright banning their members from working on Perry's touring play Medea on the Run. The reason? Perry's production company refused to sign standard union contracts. That wasn't some minor paperwork squabble. It was the entertainment industry's biggest unions declaring that Perry was putting profit over people. Without those contracts, actors lost access to protections, benefits, and safeguards that virtually every other major production was expected to provide.